Hey, Olive, Arlo, and Frank. We're back in my treasury of Christmas stories. Hopefully my voice will last through this. So tonight we're going to do The Night Before Christmas. And this already was a poem. The last two stories that we did were told in the form of poems. They were very, very abbreviated forms of it. I hope they don't abbreviate this poem, because I don't think it's a very long poem. Many people learn this poem, by memory. They memorize the poem at a very young age. In fact, in school, you used to have to memorize it. And everybody would get up. It was the night before Christmas and all through the house. So anyway, let's talk about Santa Claus for a minute. Santa Claus was a man named St. Nicholas. I forget where he lived, maybe Aleppo or something, but it was in Turkey. So St. Nicholas, the original St. Nicholas, wasn't some fat white guy with a big white beard, dressed in all this winter clothing. He lived in some part of Turkey. Now, in some parts of Turkey, it's very warm a lot of the year, like right on the Mediterranean. And then there's, up in the mountains, there's winter and stuff, but nobody dressed like that. He would look more, Santa Claus would look more like your dad, Olive, than he would like me. And I'm the guy sitting here in the Santa hat with the white beard, and I'm a pretty big guy. But Santa Claus didn't look like this. This is something that became what we think of as Santa Claus today. Different parts of the world, he's called different things. He does different things. They usually involve gifts, and there were some stories, I don't know if they're true, about the original St. Nicholas, that he started giving gifts to children, and that he would put the gifts, that had something to do with chimneys, but it had nothing to do with him going down a chimney, that he would somehow put the gifts in the chimney, something. So different things have influenced the story of who this St. Nicholas really was. And this is probably the most influential one. I don't think before this that there were reindeer and a sleigh and these things flying through the night and going around the entire world and all this kind of stuff. I don't know if there were even stockings. And back then, like when they said the stockings were hung, they were probably just people's socks. Hopefully they washed them before they hung them up there. So there's all these things, like there's mistletoe. You hang this, it's this little plant, and you hang it up on the ceiling. And if you're underneath it, somebody gets to kiss you. So be careful if you're standing under the mistletoe. But the whole Santa Claus coming down the chimney and all that. And here he is, he's on the chimney. He's getting ready to step into the chimney with a sack of toys to go around the world. So this is the poem this is the seminal poem for a lot of the modern day American Christmas story that we believe. Towards the night before Christmas, when all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there. And see, they call him St. Nicholas, and we call him that. I hope you can see that okay. And there's cookies. See the cookies down there at the bottom? Plate full of cookies. There's nothing. Oh, I was pointing at the wrong thing. There's nothing in the biblical story about cookies and milk. In fact, the real St. Nicholas would probably only do it if it was goat milk. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And sugar plums are like a treat. And Mama in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. And you'll see the cap. It's this hat that's like this. And people would wear like stuff like this to bed because it was very cold. Wherever it is these people live, it's cold. I mean, Santa Claus is in a sleigh. And sleighs, and you'll see that, they have blades on the bottom. They don't have wheels. They have blades so that they can cut through the snow. Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. So the kids are in bed, you see them in their bed, and the parents are in bed, and the mom is really cold. Moms are always really cold. They're cold in the middle of the summer. And she's like snuggled down in the bed, and the dad's got the cap on. Kind of a cool cap. Maybe I'll start wearing something like that to go to bed. And he's going like, woo, what's up? What's up out there? Away to the window, I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters, and threw up the sash. So the sash is the window sash. The moon on the breast of the new's fallen snow gave luster of midday to objects below. So the moon was so bright that it looked like it was daylight outside. It doesn't really mean that, but it was bright enough out that he could see everything fine. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. So here's, for some reason, there's a mouse. I guess he's standing next to that candle to stay warm. And then here's the guy looking out the window. And most sleighs are much bigger than that, and most reindeer are much bigger than that. But in modern days, when you see Santa Claus in a movie or something, he's got this giant sleigh. But in this is the original, and it keeps evolving. It's a myth. We talk about that in another thing that I did on words that describe truth, like how a myth grows. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles, his coursers they came, and his coursers, that's the reindeer. And he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now we're going to see something interesting here, because look at that reindeer right there. It's got a red nose. So you're like, that's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's after this. So the illustrator, the person that drew the pictures for this, let's say it might be watercolor, made a Rudolph, but it's not really a Rudolph, because there was no Rudolph. And he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen. So there's 8 of them. No, and you're going to see that there's no Rudolph. You're going to see now that they all have red noses when you look at this. It might be a little hard to see. to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. And here they are, like flying through the air. And they all had the red noses. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. So this is an old-fashioned way of saying that the sleigh was going pretty low to the ground, and it went up and went onto the roof and landed on the roof. And so we're going to see St. Nicholas get out. And they haven't called him Santa Claus. Santa Claus is a contraction for St. Nicholas. Santa Claus, St. Nicholas. And then in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. So once again, these are miniature reindeer in this story. They become full-size reindeer as we get into the modern era. I don't know when this was written. As I drew in my head, so he was looking out the window. He was leaning out the window, going, whoa, and looking up like, wow, here's these things that are coming up onto my roof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. So he's going around the world, and he's gone down people's chimneys, and they build fires in their fireplaces, which they would, now it's the middle of the night, so a lot of people's fires don't burn all night. But it's a risky business, let's put it that way. But hey, it's called poetic license. You can put things in that don't make any sense in reality. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. So there would be people that would come around from farm to farm out in these rural areas, these small towns. They'd go into towns, go town to town, and they would have like a sack full of stuff, and they would travel in a sleigh maybe in the winter time, and a carriage in the summer, and they maybe have horses taking them and stuff. This is reindeer. And so he looks like a peddler. He looks like a person that peddles, not peddles a bike or anything like that. Peddles means to sell. So he's peddling his goods, but this isn't that. He just looks like that. And here he is. Old fat white man coming out of your fireplace. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. And dimples are like little indentations on your cheeks. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. So he had rosy cheeks that was bright pink from being out in the cold and flying through the air, and his nose was so cold it turned red. Either that or he's a drunk. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and droll is like a, I guess in this instant it's talking about like nondescript little, like droll is deadpan, droll is very plain. Was drawn up like a bow, and a bow is, a bow and arrow. So I guess it's like that. And the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. And here he is, he's underneath a Christmas tree. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke it encircled his head like a wreath. So he smokes a pipe. He had a broad face and a round little belly, and a little round belly that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of jelly. And here he is. He's got the cat. He's petting the cat. He's got the milk and cookies. He's drinking the milk, eating the cookies, smoking the pipe all at once. Like he's out of control. Santa Claus is out of control. There's a stocking up there for some reason. Yeah. Oh, ew, and look. I'm glad your grandmother's not watching. Look what's behind the milk glass. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf. And I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. So this is the first mention of an elf. So what did they mean? This is what he looks like. And they say he's an elf. So elves, I think, were these mythical creatures from folklore. That's all stuff that we talk about in that same video. Words that describe truth. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. And so let's look at this again, and we'll look at both pages, because you see the man that's writing this poem and describing the events. He's standing there, and he's, you'd be pretty freaked out if this dude came in your house. Like all of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what's that guy doing in the house? Because he doesn't know who he is. That's the whole point of this thing is, like this guy doesn't know. Like, well, why is this happening? And then he observes him. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk. And that doesn't mean that somebody who's a jerk, he turned and there was like somebody who's a jerk turned with him. A jerk means a sudden movement. And laying his finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. So that's how he gets back up the chimney. Because you might have thought, like, okay, well, you slide down the chimney, that's fine. Now how are you going to get back up there? Did you bring a ladder with you? Like, what, are you going to, like, go outside and try to figure out how to get on the roof? Like, I think what I would have done is I just would have walked outside and told the reindeer, like, hey, pick me up down the block. But that's just me. But he goes like this and nods and zooms right up the chimney. As they used to say in my old neighborhood in Kensington, up the chimney. Right up the chimney. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, gave a whistle. So his team is the reindeer. And he gives a whistle. And away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight. So that's before he went off and then disappeared up into the sky. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. He didn't say it, but I'll say it. And peace out.